Thank you for joining me again. Remember the definition of problem-solving skills we saw in the previous module? Problem-solving is about using your skills, logic, and of course, a bit of imagination to determine the source of a problem and to find effective solutions. Welcome back to problem-solving. In this unit, let us begin by understanding why we need a framework to problem-solve. Let's say that due to poor economic conditions, as the head of a division, you have been asked to make budget cuts and provide a report on how your division will save money. How will you decide what cuts to make? What will motivate your thought process? How will you draft that report? What if the economy ticks up and your budget freeze has now been lifted? How will you decide then what new changes to make? Sometimes decisions may be dictated by political motives, or we may have to make choices based on factors beyond our control. There's nothing much we can do in those situations. However, in most other situations, for most purposes, having a framework allows for a structured approach to understanding and defining problems, enabling people and teams around you to function at their best and be goal-oriented, and to find solutions that are optimal. In the absence of structure and reasoning, decisions lack proper motives. And without proper motives, you risk loss of credibility, consistency, and purpose. The LEADS framework I have developed is a tried and tested technique to facilitate excellent problem solving. Let us now go ahead and review the LEADS framework. LEADS is an acronym that stands for Leadership, Effective Communication, Analytical Thinking, Decision Making, and Solution Implementation. Each one is an important component in good problem solving, and together they enable us to become better leaders, communicators, analytical thinkers, decision makers, and solution implementers. While this is not meant to be a stepwise process for good problem solving, in reality and practice, the 5 elements are highly interconnected and enjoy many overlapping benefits. For example, the skills possessed by an effective communicator will likely empower him to be a great leader. An analytical thinker is already halfway to becoming a good decision maker, and so on. So, improving on any one or a few skills will have tremendous beneficial spillover effects. Let us now turn our attention to an overview of each of the LEADS skills. We first focus on leadership skills. Leadership is a relationship between those who aspire to lead and those who choose to follow. It is not a gene or an inheritance. This revelation challenges the belief that leadership is reserved for only a few charismatic men and women, and that leadership is only found at the highest levels of an organization or society. Leadership is an identifiable set of skills and abilities available to all of us. So leadership is not about personality, it is about behavior. As Lou Gerstner, best known for his tenure as chairman and CEO of IBM, and who is largely credited for turning around IBM's fortune, famously said, "Watch the turtle. He only moves forward by sticking his neck out." There are 6 practices of practical leadership, which we will delve into in our module on leadership. Our next skill is effective communication. Effective communication is about more than just exchanging information. It is about understanding the intention and emotion behind that information. There are various forms of communication like verbal, nonverbal, visual, and written communication. But we will focus on those communication skills that help us become better problem solvers. More in the module on effective communication. Let us now talk about A for analytical thinking. Analytical thinking is a mental process of breaking down complex information into fundamental parts and then using critical thinking skills to evaluate as much information as is available in order to make sound decisions. In this module on analytical thinking, we will introduce some specific skills to break down complex information, discuss data gathering and research techniques, and ways to interpret information to derive a set of alternatives, which leads us to the next section on decision making. Decision making. So now that you have a set of alternatives derived through this analytical process described earlier, you come to a crossroads in your decision-making process. Which alternative provides the best solution to your problem? Which is the one you've set out to solve? This is when a structured decision-making process comes in handy. Here, we will also discuss some common pitfalls to avoid in decision-making. At its very core, decision-making is an analysis of each of those alternatives. The decision-making process then leads you to find the most optimal solution from that set of alternatives. We will discuss decision-making mainly in a business setting, but know that these skills easily translate to other settings like personal decision-making as well. Solution implementation. Solution implementation is the culmination of all your hard work in leadership, communication, analytical thinking, and decision-making, but it doesn't end here. Our solution implementation section approaches this process from a project management perspective. Like every other part, this too requires a structured approach to make sure that the solution is implemented in an effective, goal-oriented, and robust manner. Once the solution has been implemented, monitoring, reevaluation, and of course corrections are equally essential parts of this process. So now that we've gone over the LEADS framework, do try the quiz below to test your knowledge. Don't worry if you didn't get all the answers right. The next few modules will go into each of these elements in greater detail. All the very best.